information, knowledge, knowing, learning, and memory. I have tried to avoid topics related to knowledge, knowing, learning, understanding, recognition, thinking, and etc., because it seemed difficult to define these things properly. In spite of that, I would now like to make an attempt at defining and talking about knowledge, knowing, and learning. Let us narrow the scope of the broader term knowledge and define knowledge as stored information. In computer systems, information would need to be coded into a form of data that the computer can process. A computer must have all information converted into data that consists of patterns of ones and zeros. In brain systems, human or animal, information would need to be converted into a form of data that a brain can process. A brain must have all information coded into data that consists of chemical changes, connection changes, and any other changeable aspects related to neural plasticity. The important thing to understand is that for computers and for brains, the actual information must be coded into some physical configurations and some sort of physical memory. With a computer, the physical memory is the hard drive, RAM, or any other storage media that can store the necessary ones and zeros. With a brain, the physical memory seems to be distributed throughout the whole brain and is implemented in the neural plasticity changes of the brain. I think we can explore knowledge and knowing by submitting a test question to a brain and then to a computer. Let the question be, what kind of animal meows? Putting aside the difficulties of parsing the sentence, we can view this as a memory association data access operation, and the brain and the computer will produce the answer, cat. But now let us examine the differences in the underlying processes that occurred. First, for the brain. We can say that the word animal and then the word meow will associate in the brain to eventually fire some neurons that indicate cat. But there is no experience of knowing that the answer is cat until the next processing stage, where a signal of cat and knowingness is received by the conscious mind. In other words, the meaning of the neural cat signal must become known in the conscious mind. The knowing is in the conscious mind. The physical brain knows nothing. It is just a processor. Now for the computer. The computer can have an associative database that will retrieve the text string cat for the given input of animal and meow. But the computer does not have the next processing stage of knowingness that is implemented in a conscious mind. So we can conclude that the computer never knows it computed the answer of cat. With a computer, it is always only processing. There is never any knowing. This might seem obvious, but a lot of people seem to think that computers are operating like brains, and that computers can in some way know things. There is nobody home in a computer, like there is in a brain. Now let us talk about this in terms of the Inter-Mind Model, IMM. We will ignore details of the processing that had to occur in the brain or in the computer that was needed to arrive at the answer of cat. For the brain, there will be neural activity that fires neurons for cat. For the computer, there will be computational activity that will load the text string cat into 3 bytes of RAM designated as the location for the answer. In both cases, there has been some sort of activity that indicates the answer is cat. Up to this point, the process has been mechanistic and mindless for the brain and for the computer. There is no knowing that it is cat yet. From the operation of the Inter-Mind Model, we know that the Intermind, IM, is intimately connected to the brain, which in Inter-Mind Model terminology is the physical mind, PM. The intermind is constantly monitoring the physical mind and is able to interpret the neural activity as referencing the word cat. The intermind converts this neural activity to the word cat and to a feeling of knowing. The intermind then sends the word cat and the feeling of knowing to the conscious mind, CM. The conscious experience of the word cat might consist of some vague auditory experience of the word cat and maybe some hazy visual spelling of the word cat. There might be a fuzzy image of a cat. Other related associations of everything you have ever experienced related to cats can arise. But the important thing is that you know the answer is cat in your conscious mind. You also have the feeling of knowing it. There was no knowing with merely the neural activity of the brain. From this, we can understand that the computer will not be able to know it has calculated or processed anything. There is no connection to an intermind or to a conscious mind with computers. But that is not to say that a computer cannot be designed to include such a connection. The technology has just not advanced to the point where we know how to do this yet. We can now logically say, because a brain can know the information that it processes, the brain can have knowledge. But since the computer does not know the information it processes, We can say a computer cannot have knowledge, even though there is much stored information. If a computer is programmed to display the word cat on a screen, then the fact that the word is displayed still does not indicate knowing for the computer. A human brain would be needed to read the screen and do some further neural processing to know that the computer computed cat as the answer. The computer still does not know anything. Now, I would like to say some things about human memory in general. For a long time, I was convinced that the memory of things was strictly a physical mind function, but recently it has seemed to me that the only thing the physical mind does is store the neural correlates of memories and not the actual memories. The physical mind can fire neural activity for a particular memory or knowledge, such as for a cat, but where does the actual memory of a cat come from? There seems to be no explanation for how neurons firing could possibly mean cat or any of the thousands and thousands of other pieces of knowledge stored in our memories. It seems logical that the situation for memories is similar to the situation for conscious sensory experiences. There is no explanation for how we experience redness from neural activity, but we have logically deduced that there must be some sort of intermind monitoring the visual cortex. When the intermind detects that the redness neurons are firing, it produces the redness experience for the conscious mind. Along that same line of logic, it is deduced that the intermind must be monitoring the physical mind for neural activity related to all the memories that we might have stored. When there is neural activity for something like cat, the intermind detects this neural activity and produces a cat experience, as described above, for the conscious mind. The physical mind merely provides the signal, neural activity, that triggers the actual memory that is located in the intermind. The human brain cannot know anything, because the human brain is a physical thing, and knowing happens as a conscious experience in a conscious mind. We can now talk about learning as the storage of new information. For a brain, the neural plasticity of the brain will need to be changed in such a way that the new information is encoded. There is now a configuration change inside the brain, and we can say the brain was reconfigured with the new information. For a computer, some new patterns of ones and zeros will need to be included in such a way that the new information is encoded. There is now a configuration change inside the computer, and we can say the computer has been reconfigured with the new information. As described above, the brain will be able to access this new information and know this new information. The information is not learned until it is known. It will be new knowledge. If the information does not become known, it is just a reconfiguration and nothing more. A computer will be able to access the information but does not know the information. So a computer cannot learn in the same sense as a brain/mind. A computer can be reconfigured, but it cannot learn. A neural net can be reconfigured, but it does not really learn. We say the neural net learned, mostly by convention and for convenience. I would like to mention the analogy of a library and a computer with respect to knowledge and learning. A library has many books and much information, but it would be incoherent and a little bit dumb to say that a library knows anything. If a book is added to a library, the library does not know it was added, and the library did not learn anything. It is analogous for a computer. A library and a computer are non-conscious physical things, so it is also incoherent and a little bit dumb to say that a computer knows anything or that a computer learns anything. It is all right to say a computer knows or a computer learns as long as we know what we are talking about. We should not continue the fraud inflicted on non-technical people that there is some sort of conscious mind in a computer that knows things and that learns things. It is an unconscious machine. Let us see what a cat can know and what the IBM Watson can know. The IBM Watson has access to much information, but it cannot know anything. A cat only has a little information, but it can know this information. A cat therefore can know more than the IBM Watson because whatever a cat knows is going to be more than what the IBM Watson knows, which is nothing. Without consciousness, there is no knowing. For brains, this statement must still apply even if you believe that consciousness is in the neurons or emerges from the neurons, because there has to be some implementation of the functionality of consciousness, somewhere, somehow.